we were looking after the blind, and because you know what we are, I started in my mind sort of watching and thinking, you know, I got interested. And then we went. Then everybody was split up, and we went to Lewisham, and they were put in charge of the blind, and I was their office girl, you know, and I just felt these two old biddies. I mean, all they could think of was a home teacher for the blind and what they taught them. And I started thinking, I don't know how it came to me, but I thought, when people are blind, it's the word that sends everybody sort of frightened of blindness, you know. And what happens when they're registered, I mean, they've been going to the eye hospital for a long time, then when they're registered as blind or partially sighted, the hospital have to send a letter to the people to say you are now registered blind or partially sighted. And I used to go out and visit them. And I started thinking, I got caught onto this, but they've got other senses. They've got their hearing. I mean, and I was friendly with the deaf specialist.
Right.
And me and her, sometimes we had a deaf blind, and we used to see which was the biggest handicap and decide who's going to take it on. And yeah, so then Mrs. Thatcher found social workers and said everybody went mad for social workers. And then we had a rumour, me and Ruth, who's the deaf specialist, we heard a rumour that they were going to start employing social workers because they were, social workers, and put them over us, and we'd tell them all what we know about blind. Me and Ruth, you know, we said, I'm intrigued. Well, they'll learn what we do, and they'll be over us, you know. And I sat with that for a little while, and I went along to Ruth. I said, I'm going off for the social work course. I'm going to go and see if I'm young enough to go on the social work course. So she said, oh, yeah. I said, yeah. I said, I'm going along to see the trainer. So I went along there, and I was 45 then, and I said, I'd just come along. I want to know if I'm too old to go in for the social work thing, you know. So she said, no, certainly not, you know. And she said, no, certainly not. You leave it with me, she said. Well, about 2 days later, she come back and said, I've got you a place. She said, at Croydon, you're going to be trained in Croydon, you know. So off I went to start my training, and then I was transferred up to Birmingham for the exam in Birmingham University and things like that. And I mean, I was so interested by then, I passed. And then Ruth went off, and she got her social work and all. And so she was social worker. We both finished up. I mean, she had it. The council, we heard the council then was going to amalgamate the deaf and the blind because they were the same thing.
As far as they were concerned.
So we upped and said, I went to the training officer, I said, I don't think the council and the councillors understand that the deaf and the blind are totally different. Their needs are totally different. The deaf go out, mix with one another. They're noisy because they're deaf, but they've got company. The blind, put with Mum who's frightened of blind, everybody's frightened of blindness, you know. I said, they go with the family. One of the children said, I'm going to look after Mum. And I said, and what happens? I had to put this all in sort of English. And I said, what happens? The other family visit and they say, oh, don't talk to her like that. And the one that's taken her on says, oh, you don't have her 24 hours a day. I said, so it's not really viable, really. know, it doesn't do the thing. And then I'd got this idea that what they should be doing is developing all their other senses, which is tactile, hearing, if they've got it, touch, tactile, or I don't know, only there's 5 senses.
Sure, smart.
And so I started by having 12 people in that were newly blind, and I thought the best thing you've got to do as soon as they were newly blind, get to the family so they don't spoil it and do everything, because that's what people were doing, you
Make
know.
him an invalid, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, I sort of worked from there. And then I brought 12 in to go on a fortnight course. And those that had a bit of sight, I talked to them and I said, would you mind if I put a blindfold on you, you know, because you've got a bit of useful vision. And I'm going to do a little exercise. And they said no. So those that had a sort of quite a bit of vision, I'd put a blindfold on them. It was like them in a circle around the table. We learned how to write because there's raised line paper that the RNOB sell, and we'd already showed them how to come down to that raised line, and that's the line you follow. And so that was that. Oh, what else was it? Oh, and then there are other senses. I sat them all down. There's 12 that I picked out. Put blindfolds on those that had too much sight, and then I said, now I'm going to pass you some articles round. I said, try not to talk to one another, which the women did, as women do. I said, try not to talk to one another, but just write it down, what the article is. And I first one I put along was a cup. And I heard the women saying, it's a cup, you know. And then I stopped there and I said, now, what have you written? I mean, I knew what they'd written because they blabbed it out. So they said, a cup. I said, yes, that's right. How did you know it was a cup? And they all said, well, because it's got a handle. I said, how did you know it's got a handle? And they said, well, you know. I said, oh, so that gave you a clue that it was a cup, you know. And then I put a lot of things round. I put a tea bag round, one thing I put a tea bag round. And I can't think of all the things I put round. Oh, an OXO cube, and so that they were all different but recognisable. And I said, so you know, you use your other sense by feeling, tactile sense came into it, you know. And then I said something round that was smelly. I can't think what that was now.
OXO cube would have been.
Eh?
OXO cube would have been smelly, right?
Yes, but the shape of that was more what they picked up, you know.
Right.
So I'd say 12 things around that they had to decide on, you know. And then it really fell into place, and I thought, you know, what we've got to do when people go blind is get to them first, so that the family don't say, oh, poor old mum or dad, he's blind, you know, can't do anything. Oh, we'll do it all for him. I stopped that, and I brought them in about 12 at a time and taught them all their